Welcome to Key Conversations, a Making It in the Music Business podcast. My goal for this podcast is to help you learn from these conversations with both experts and working musicians and serve as a guide to assist your career in the process. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Englehart. Let's get going. All right, welcome to today's musician edition of Key Conversations. We are here with Avi Blum. I'm so excited to have him here. He's a composer, songwriter, and guitarist. So thanks for being here.
Hey, Cheryl, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell us just a little, let us get to know you. Give us the nutshell of who you are, where you came from, and how you got to where you're sitting right now.
Well, it's like everyone's story. It's a little bit long, but to shorten it up a little bit, I went to school for classical composition in New York City and moved up to Northern Westchester for a while and just been kind of doing the composition and recording and songwriting game for a little bit, and moved down to Brooklyn about 6 months ago, and just kind of diving into the community, reconnecting with old friends, and kind of just getting back into the swing of things.
Awesome. So is music composing, is this a full-time gig for you?
It is not full-time. It's more part-time at the moment. I do a lot of teaching. I teach guitar. I teach songwriting. I teach just a little bit of kind of audio engineering, not in like I'm going to go mix for a bunch of people kind of way. More like you're a musician and you want to make your demos sound listenable. And even as a composer, just making them sound listenable is so important to seeming even just a little bit competitive.
Yeah, sounds like a great resource. It's so funny when I ask musicians, like, is music your full-time thing? They're like, no, but I my other thing is I teach music. I teach music too, and I consider myself a full-time musician. I teach one day a week. It's not I wouldn't even call it, it's barely part-time. It's like 1/8 time, right? But I feel like if you are teaching music, you get better as at communicating music, at talking music, at hearing what other people are struggling with music. I feel like it's so related. So it's funny to me. I'm not, no judgment, but I see you as a full-time composer who part of what you do as a musician is you teach other musicians.
That's really funny that you say that, because that's so true. And it's so weird that there is that disconnect between, feeling like a full-time musician and doing like, oh wait, I just teach. Like, it's not like a big thing.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot that you get out of when you teach, and I, not that I teach for purely selfish reasons, but it is financially stable. I have really good cancellation policies and packages and stuff. So it's like one of my very few stable, predictable income, fairly predictable. I mean,
sports. Oh my God, sports. I hate sports so much.
Sports? Wait, what?
Oh, because with a lot of these kids, sports can get in the way in that after school area. So it's just like, there's that instability there just a little bit.
Gotcha. So so that's interesting. So one of the things I know that you and I had talked about in past work that we've done is talking about that stability and is it possible to get it? And I know that one of my old bosses who ran a successful jingle house in New York City said, we don't even know where the money's coming from in 6 months. And 6 months would be lovely to know that, but they're a big company and they don't even know that. So it seems like anyone who's in the music creation industry of any sort, you have to be okay with unpredictability and insecurity. And for me, that's my breeding ground for my anxiety, but we can talk about more of that later. But yeah, so tell me what in terms of when you look at your ideal career, does it not include teaching then? Is that why that's sort of like and then there's this thing?
Yeah, I guess so. And I think that's really common for a lot of musicians is they see teaching as this sort of way to get a foot in the door with just a little bit of income. But I feel like that is such a common misconception because teaching is one of the only places where you can find just like a little nugget of stability in terms of making a living for yourself. And not only that, if you find yourself to be pretty good at it, then it can be really, really fulfilling. And it kind of starts reminding you why you're doing it in the first place. And it becomes this cycle of like inspiration in a way. You just want to go home and start working on your art even more and go home and practice and that kind of thing. And seeing that progress from your students is just like the most wild thing in the world.
Yeah. So I'm giving you and everyone, including myself, permission to say I'm a full-time musician if that includes teaching. Not, I'm a part-time musician and I teach. Let's like just end that conversation.
Let's say it. I am a full-time musician.
Awesome. And you compose and you write songs and you play guitar and you teach.
Yes.
I got it.
All of that stuff.
All that stuff. Okay, cool. I love it. All that stuff for me too, minus the guitar. I've tried so many times to play the guitar. I landed with the ukulele and I'm okay with that.
Hey, well, I teach lessons, so.
I heard it. Great. So what right now in terms of getting to well, let me just ask you this. What does the ideal music career look like for you?
I guess it looks like making most of my income from composition right now and kind of doing my own music a little bit more on the side.
What do you mean a little bit of your music?
So like the music, like songwriting type of stuff,
Gotcha.
rather than composing for, like video game. Right now I'm doing the soundtrack for a video game, which is really fun. Also, it's really teaching me a lot about the business side of things and just kind of dealing with some of these people, especially these indie developers. They might not have an audio director or a music supervisor. So for example, I'm dealing with the lead project manager. So it's sort of difficult not having someone with a little bit more expertise to communicate with, because the language they use is very different, and what they even some of their business acumen, sometimes you don't really know who you're dealing with, and you have to like really stand up for yourself and stand up for your value and say like, no, I'm not going to give you unlimited revisions. Like, this is in the contract. If you want to renegotiate a contract, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Great that you have a contract up front. And by the way, everyone knows what the word revision means. So they can't pull the like, but I don't speak music thing. And our job as composers is definitely one of the biggest things I've gotten as a composer is that you're a translator. You have to take the words that come out of their mouth. And when people try to talk music to me, I'm like, pause. I want you to tell me how you want to feel. Let's use words that you know. And I'm going to be able to take those, I promise. So you don't even, and they're like, I always see people just like relax when they're like, oh, I don't have to talk your language. I'm like, no. You talk your language. Cause I also speak that language, like emotions and, feelings and how you want it to land for an audience and like, or whatever energy, you use those words and then I'll translate that to the music. And I think if you can get that that's what you're doing, then it's so much less stressful for everyone and they're not going to be as wonky. So that's cool that you're doing that. Cool. So what's the gap between where you are now and that ideal music career?
It's really just a matter of, well, I do have a freelance writing gig that I do, which is about, I don't know, maybe a third to 2/3 of my income right now, which is kind of where the meat of things are going. And that actually just capped a little bit in the sense that I'm not going to be able to do it as much. So it's really just a matter of kind of pulling myself up by my bootstraps and looking for more work and putting together a new demo reel and kind of just investing that time, investing in myself. So really the only person standing in my way is me.
That's how it usually rolls.
Yeah.
So you got to go through all those steps of like the research and then the outreach, the pitching, right? And then the follow-up and then whatever that cycle is, or you get the work and then you got to go do the work and then rinse and repeat. But do you have a system in place that supports you for that research, keeping track of where you're reaching out to? Or are you someone that's like, I'll Google search, find a company, I'll reach out to them, do another Google search? Is it like haphazard, or how do you do that kind of work?
It's way more haphazard than I'd like it to be. I do not have a system because it's one of those things that is a huge trigger for my anxiety and for that whole cycle to kind of take place. And for me, part of that is just to get over that. You need to like employ all of these different kinds of techniques to kind of get yourself through that moment, that trigger moment, and kind of push forward through.
Yeah, I hear you. I've got a Google Doc I'm going to tell you about it, and you can go to it's in the key.co/outreach. It's basically the document that I've used for, there's a bunch of tabs and you can use it for students, music venues, if you're playing live, publishing houses, if you're pitching publishing, whatever you're pitching, you make a tab for that category. Jingle houses, film directors, whatever. And it's a Google Doc. It keeps track of like the company, the contact name, when you pitch to them, did they reach out? Are they a no or yes? Put a line through it. And I keep them on the document so that I come back to it in a year when it's time to do that research again. I know, I don't waste my time. I already did that research. I have hundreds of venues I've used this since I started touring, and I keep track of every venue that I pitched to, played at, how much they pay. So this Google Doc, I have a master template of this, so you can go duplicate it, create it for yourself if you want to start keeping track of And I like to, I'm a big batcher. So
Mhm.
I get into a mindset and I kind of am like, all right, I'm in editing podcast mode. So I know that I need to do like 9 of them at a time. I can't just do one because I'll
Right.
never sit down and do the other 9
Hmm.
or 8.
Absolutely.
So for research, it's the same thing. If I know that I need to reach out to some PR companies or to licensing companies or something, I do all the research at once and I can consider that task done.
That's
And then
awesome.
I look at the pitching as
Mhm.
something else. And that's taken away. And then I sit down and write a bunch of those emails and I make sure they're personalized. And then I'm just in like pitching mode. And it
Mhm.
feels so much better than like find the company, pitch the company. Wait, when do I follow up? Do I follow up a week later? Like, by the way, you guys, perfect pitch in the key.co/perfect pitch. If you have not done that course, you will thank me later.
I've
Um,
taken that course and it is fantastic.
yeah, so you know how to
Seriously.
pitch, but
Yeah.
I feel like if that overwhelming anxiety comes, it's from the haphazard, like getting to the pitch, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true because so much of the time when you actually take the action to jump in and just start doing it, that anxiety goes away because you are in a weird, you're outsmarting it, is the way I like to think about it. You're totally, because you're taking away the locus of control from the anxiety itself to what the anxiety is being anxious about.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we got the world of you. I love that. And I know that you're super open about this, as am I, about, working with and handling and struggling with anxiety. So let's get into it. Looks like a lot of different things for different people.
That's
What is
absolutely
that?
true.
Yeah, what does it look like for you? Because right now you're talking about that it looks a certain way when it comes to this pitching process. So what does it look like for you? How does it stop you? And yeah, let's talk about it. And then I'll share mine. You share
For
mine.
me, it's like, oh, I remember in your article, you kind of really hit the nail on the head in the sense that it wants you to feel safe and secure.
Mm.
And the idea of even, getting a new gig or, changing your life in any little certain way, that can feel like things are moving out of control. So that's a big trigger for my anxiety. That change, and yet every time that change starts to happen or you start to enact that change, it feels great, and you don't feel that anxiety at all anymore. Um, for me, it really stops me when I have to, where it's anticipatory in the sense
Mhm.
where I'm just about to take an action, or even if I'm traveling somewhere, I'm just about to travel. Yet as soon as I get to the gate, as soon as I get on the plane, as soon as I go and start that task, I feel fantastic that it goes away, and there's nothing really stopping me because I'm already in the midst of that action. I'm already taking the step, and once
Yeah,
you're there, there's no turning back.
right. So when you say you start to get anxious, or are you is it what does it look like? What does it feel like? Do you have panic attacks or anxiety attacks, or is it a more constant feeling across longer periods of time? What does it look like for you actually?
It's kind of a mix between this just higher generalized anxiety where my mind is just constantly going, and I have to sort of use little techniques and mantras and a lot of physical activity to sort of quiet it down to
Mm,
just a more manageable baseline level. Um, it also takes the form of social anxiety. So I have the tendency to kind of isolate myself and not want to network as much, not want to dive into even my group of friends who I've known for, I don't know, like 20 years at this point. And it's one of those things that really gets in your head. For me, it's very cerebral. I don't have a lot of physical symptoms, but it's something that will just cause me to sit in my room and not leave it at all, and not even do work. Even if I'm doing work, sometimes it'll just kind of make me stop in its tracks, and I feel like a deer in headlights a lot. That's kind of the main feeling for me.
yeah, yeah. Anxiety kind of takes you out of the game. It's funny that that's the point, right? The whole safety thing. So
Mhm.
for me, there's and I have written an article on how I have like 10 lines of defense. So that article is at in the key.co/anxiety. I'll put all these links in the show notes. But for me, it's really physical. I start to feel it like behind my sternum, and it starts to feel like I just ran, and I'm like, I know I haven't just run. It's very unlikely that I just went from a run, and it starts to feel like my heart rate's going up and it feels like sweats. And then it's usually only at nighttime when it's dark for me,
Hmm.
which is interesting. And I've learned over the years what that looks like. And I mean, I can speak yesterday I felt one coming on, and I stopped it, and I had one for the first time when it was dusk. So it wasn't quite dark. I was in New York City last Monday for a friend's, she was producing a theater production, and they were doing like just the music from the show. And it was in a small room, maybe 20 people in the audience, and the cast was 15 people sitting with music stands. And at the end, everyone was stood up and was networking. And I'm fine with networking events. I get a lot of energy from people, and then I handle the drain later. I mean, the extrovert kind of talky person that I am, but I immediately went to the bathroom, and then my number one thing that happens for me is I dry heave, and like my body empties out. I never have that sort of like throw up or anything, but my body I'm going to the bathroom all the time, and it's very physical for me. And I was like, what is going on? I missed one of my best friends. I'm in this, and I realized one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm writing a musical. And what is one of the things I'm going to have to do is something like this, a workshop with the music. And I think that was the anxiety, being like, this is a risky thing that you're doing. Like, this is what it's going to end up having to look like. And I think it was just like, you should, and my brain was saying, I should probably I don't want to even write a musical. I'm just so miserable here. Like, I must hate theater. As like, oh my God, I could make so many theater jokes right now about how I'm such a ham about theater. And it's so ridiculous, right? I had to get on a bus to come home, and I'm like, I don't know if I can. And of course I'm walking outside. I talked to my husband, and it goes away, but it was very intense. But I had to go through, okay, what can I do while I'm in the streets of New York City? And I'm looking at my list of 10 things from that article, and I'm like, I can listen to meditations. I can do the deep breathing. I can, all of that stuff. So that's what it looks like for me. For me, it's not general anxiety, which I know, I think it's about, it shows up more times than not throughout a month for you. So you have more days where you're anxious than not. I actually have been keeping track. So for those of you that are watching the video, I have this little thing. So there's color-coded calendar where I've been keeping track of different events that happen in my life. And I'm a girl, so I keep track of my period. Is it hormonal? Like, when does it happen? And if you look at the black dots, it's only like once or twice a month for me. And I say only.
Awesome.
It still feels a lot. So, and then all the green was the days that I'm like psyched and like feel happy. So I consider myself really lucky, but I'm still like, wow, when I have an anxiety attack, the next day I'm calling my friends, I'm processing what happened. I feel exhausted because my body just did this whole thing for an hour to usually lasts around an hour to two. And there's an impact on my husband. He's worried about me. Like, there's impact that I have to handle. So that's what it looks like for me. And, I was really excited to talk to you about anxiety because I feel like musicians, and I want to actually open it up to entrepreneurs or anyone that's creating their own career. They not only, and I had this great conversation with my friend Suzanne Polinsky, the Rockstar Advocate. She's an amazing, cheerleader for musicians and works with musicians on mindset and wellness and all this stuff. And we were talking this morning about anxiety being a thing that is because we're handling all of the things. We figure out the problem, we source the problem, we create the tools to solve the problem, we solve the problem, and then we do it all again. And if we don't do any one of those steps, stuff doesn't happen. We don't generate income. We don't get that next gig. We don't network. It's 100% on us to generate and create, and with not 100% assurance that, yes, this is going to work out. Yes, you're going to get a paycheck in 2 weeks. So,
absolutely.
So yeah, that's why I was really excited to talk to you about it and share both of our experiences. Normally I'm just talking about you, but this one, I wanted, because we're both musicians and we both struggle with anxiety, I wanted to give two different sides of, two different experiences of what it looks like and how we handle it and why it comes up and starts to, I feel like the more I understand it, the more compassion I can have for the anxiety and what I'm doing. I think I came very quickly to the conclusion that at the theater, it was like a shutdown mechanism because to keep me safe, playing safe. Well, you should teach more. You should not go out and write a musical. I think being able to recognize that quicker, because I knew from past work I've done that my anxiety wants to keep me safe, was, I think, very valuable. So, of course, the next morning I had a 9:00 meeting, and I took a Tylenol PM, which I take every once in a while, just to make sure I sleep through the night, and they knock me out. And I slept through my 9:00 meeting, which was with my musical person. I'm like, oh, look at anxiety actually literally taking me out of the game. So. But,
no, that's crazy. No, I definitely understand. It's great that it only pops up like every now and then. Unfortunately for me, it is kind of this everyday battle. And what it really comes down to for me, the biggest thing that helped was realizing that it's sort of that in a way, my anxiety is kind of a partner in my life. It's not
Mm.
going to go away. There's no cure for it. This is the way my brain works. This is the way I grew up thinking.
Mm.
And it's always going to be there. And in a weird way, that's kind of, um, it's kind of weirdly satisfying because I know that there isn't anything wrong, so to speak. It's just part of who I am. And there are a lot of times where I'm pretty stoked about who I am. So knowing that that's part of me is just kind of it's a it's a practice in radical acceptance,
Yeah.
and it also kind of makes you take it head on in a way rather than looking for some kind of quick fix, some kind of like, oh well, what's this one thing that's going to make it go away in this moment. It's more like, okay, well, this is something I deal with every day. What can I do? What structures can I create for myself that can minimize this so that I can get on with my day, so that I can get on with my life?
Yeah. Yeah.
And those structures are so important, especially as a freelancer, as an entrepreneur. Like you said, we are so responsible for finding a solution to the problem, and just kind of maintaining the entirety of our careers without that stability of that 2-week paycheck twice a month.
Yeah.
It's That stability is fantastic, but we have to create that. We have to create those structures in our life as musicians, as freelancers, and as entrepreneurs, and that can be really challenging.
Yeah.
I always felt like that that kind of career is a breeding ground for mental illness, for anxiety, for depression. Because of that, exactly, there's so much to tackle. It can feel so overwhelming and exhausting when you have that kind of inclination towards depression or towards anxiety.
Yeah. And in I love that you said it's like a breeding ground, because if you think about the caveman days, when anxiety increased the adrenaline, when the caveman was out to like hunt the lion, that did something physically. The reason that your body empties out is so that all your systems and the blood can go to your legs to run, and you're like all of the physiological things behind anxiety actually come from a very biological evolutionary place, but
Hmm.
we don't get to use those things today very often, right? Like, you're not getting chased by a lion, but as an entrepreneur, there every day there's like, I need to solve this problem, I need to solve this problem. So we have that heightened thing, but we're not getting it out in a physical way. We're not getting it out in a way that, and we're not getting the like, now we can eat this lion for a week, so we get to chill out for a week. Like, because once you catch the lion,
That's right. Yeah.
it's an everyday thing. And by the way, like, full disclaimer, neither of us are therapists. You should seek professional help, blah, blah, blah. All,
Absolutely.
like, what the disclaimer is, but this is just a conversation between two people who have experiences. I feel like every podcast needs a disclaimer like that when we're talking about mental
Oh,
health.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and my email, you can always email me, is inspire@cbemusic if you want resources and someone to reach out to, but definitely reach out if you want to reach out to anyone. Or if you are struggling, I'm definitely open to this. I'm an open book about my experiences, and you're definitely not alone. I think that's the biggest takeaway. If you are a musician of any type, a creator, an entrepreneur, someone who, even if you have a full-time job, you have that stability, but you want the life of a freelancer musician or whatever it is, and you're, no matter who you are, like, you're not alone. And even if our circumstances are different, I every day I hear responses to that article about, oh my gosh, that one really helped me, or I did that one too, or I love Simple Habit, which is the app I use for meditation, which has totally transforms my
Mm,
day on a day-to-day basis.
absolutely.
And I'll put a link to that in the show notes too, because it's awesome. So just being able to like connect with yourself and understand yourself and your anxiety, but also know that you're connected to so many other people who are in the same boat, even if the boat looks different from the outside. So
That's so
I,
true.
I also love what you said. What was the thing you said? Radical acceptance. It's sort of loving yourself, accepting the things, 100%, like 100% of what you love about yourself and 100% of what you don't love about yourself. Just accepting that. Like, I don't love that I get anxiety attacks and I wonder, is tonight going to be chill, or is it going to be, in the bathroom? Like, I don't like getting anxious about my anxiety. That's another thing, that I used to do that a lot
Mm,
more, and I now know that I will live, even though in the moment, there's this like despair of nothing's working. Why am I even bothering? Like, they're like depression thoughts, even though I know it's an anxiety attack. So it's very, it's a
Well,
weird thing.
anxiety and depression tend to come hand in hand a lot of the time. Anxiety can cause depression, and depression can cause anxiety, and it can
Mm,
be this kind of vicious cycle that you can find yourself in without having these ways to manage it. Um,
mm-hmm,
and I know we spoke already about mantras. Mantras help an amazing amount. Just
mm,
having that mantra, that especially a personal mantra that makes sense for you, that is something that you're struggling with, can be so transformative. Just being able to say something to yourself over and over again. I remember the first time I found a mantra. But the big one that made me like have a huge emotional release was "There's nothing wrong with you,"
mm,
and I said that for maybe 5 minutes straight, and I just started breaking down. And it was
mm.
it was such a release. It was fantastic.
Oh my God, it's so
It
beautiful.
was
I'm
like
like
my
tearing
first,
up over here. Just, it's so simple
mhm.
and
Yeah,
so
just like
perfect.
one phrase can do so much. It
Mm,
really
I
can.
love that.
It's
There's nothing
incredible.
wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's,
No.
this is just what it is. And you, I keep, you know, I keep reminding myself, like, I could go get a day job. I'm choosing this lifestyle. And I know that the circumstances of the lifestyle contribute to the anxiety. I remember back my earliest anxiety attack, I was 13. I was babysitting. It was at night. And I remember having what, like, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like, it's not new for me. And it didn't happen often, but I can remember specific times where I didn't know what it was. But now I know. I'm like, I think that was just an anxiety attack. And I don't remember what was going on for me. What For me, it shows up when there's a large uncertainty thing in front of me, or there's a decision to make, or I
Mm.
think there's a decision to make. So if my husband and I get in some spat or something, I immediately go to, oh my God, should I leave? Which is ridiculous
Right.
because we're great and have done a ton of work to be great. And we know that this is a journey and we have he has his own business too. We get each other's lifestyle. But my default mode is kick into, let's fix it. What can I do? Should I leave? And then when I'm in decision making mode, I get a ton of anxiety around a big decision like that. And I'm like, this is dumb. The anxiety around a decision that I know I don't need to make because I've already chosen to be here. Like
Absolutely.
every day I choose this. And so when I think there's a lot of power in choosing, waking up and being like, I'm choosing this freelance career, or I'm choosing this entrepreneur lifestyle. And when you're the one in control and feeling powerful and like, I'm even in the middle of an anxiety attack. I mean, I think that might be the next thing I try out is saying, I'm choosing this. This anxiety means that I'm in something that's risky and exciting. And if anyone knows my story, I get bored easily. I used to scuba dive for the government and I got bored doing that.
Mm.
Like, this is exciting and fun and amazing and fulfilling and collaborative and all this stuff. So in the middle of an anxiety
Absolutely.
attack, if I was able to say I choose this is what comes with it, I think that would be really powerful. So I might take that on. Well, I'll add that
Absolutely. No, mantras change over time. Once one mantra
mantras.
starts to work,
I
you
love.
know,
Yeah.
it
Do you have any other mantras that you would want to share with people that have really made a difference for you?
um yeah, actually, one of the mantras that have been very, very helpful in the last couple of months or so is "I am worthy."
Mm,
Just
that's
reminding yourself that you are worth it. You're worth investing into. You're worth, if people choose to spend time with you or choose to collaborate with you, like you are worthy of that choice. You are worthy of being, or I am worthy of being part of that. Because so much of anxiety and depression, when they come hand in hand, it can be so very isolating, and you just want to be alone in your bed crying for the whole day. And some days what it comes down to is, hey, I got out of bed today and I got to work. And that can be the biggest victory. Than someone that can just be the biggest victory. It doesn't need
yeah.
any comparison, because on those days it is the biggest victory. Other days I'll go out and go for a run, or I'll do yoga, or I'll meditate, and those are amazing. Those tools are really powerful in managing it, but that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be those days where it's just deer in headlights trying to face off the car that is my anxiety, because it does run you over sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, the car that is your anxiety. Yeah. What what would be, well, let me ask this question, because you said earlier, like putting structures in place to help you get through the day, and you're nodding to the anxiety. You're like, okay, hey, I see you, I get that you're here. And like, so when you said you have structures in place to sort of support you to get through it, what does that mean exactly? What structures are in place for you?
So like for everyone else, or I guess for people who have that stable day job, they get up at a specific time. 5 days a week, they get up at the same time. They have the same breakfast, or they have breakfast around the same time. They go commute at the same time. They have this routine that creates this stability and structure, not even in a financial sense, in
Hmm.
a day-to-day activity sense, that they
Routine.
can, in a routine. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you take whether it's, you're aware of it or not, you take solace and comfort in that routine. The boring stuff really tends to be the biggest things that allow you to feel comfortable and feel safe. When you don't have that job to go to, you have to create that routine for yourself. You have to choose to either get up and go for a run, get up and exercise, eat breakfast, start your day. You have to create that structure for yourself, which is one of the hardest things to do. Um, my therapist told me something really hilarious one time, and she said that being a freelancer is a special kind of hell because you have to do so much of that work yourself. And it's really incredible work too, because I think that there's just not a lot of thought goes into just how much structure you have to create for yourself. And some people just can't do that. I used to think that I could not do that. But in the last year, I really took it upon myself to create those structures for not just my mental health, but for my professional health.
Yeah,
And it's
totally.
it's been fantastic. It
And then
really has.
relationship health. My husband told me a couple years ago, he's like, when you're like in the middle of a project, you're always in the middle of a project. Like, and I and there's an impact on me when you're really stressed out. Like, what can you put in place, like in terms of exercise or morning routines? And I really didn't have it. I would wake up and I would go to work, and when I say go to work, I mean go down the hallway to my studio.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
and changing out of my clothes was a thing, but now I have a real routine in the morning, and my husband takes care of the dog. He just knows that this is really important, and it includes writing in a gratitude journal. It includes the at least 5 minute meditation that I use on Simple Habit. You
Mhm.
guys, I think it's indthekey.co/habit is a 2-week free thing with this meditation app. And I just really love it. And then I do yoga with them. It's called Yoga Studio. I do at least 10 minutes of
Oh,
that.
you do Yoga Studio too? I love that app.
I love that app. They just had all
That
these
app
tech
is
issues.
fantastic. Oh,
Yeah,
they did? Oh,
they
man.
did. They just handled it, and now they're a subscription model. But I got
Mhm.
in early on when it was just like $4, and I will never go to another yoga
Oh,
class
that's
again. It's just,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, me either. That stuff is expensive.
I know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this app does it for me. So yeah, I get a little bit of, I just move, I get the mental stuff in, I get the
Mhm.
gratitude. I've been training my brain because I'm a person that if I walk into a room, I will see what is broken. And if
Mhm.
nothing is broken, I will break something so that I can fix it, because that's my
Totally.
default. Like, I'm a fixer. I want to fix it. And
Mhm.
it's no good for anybody. So instead of having that eye to find the writing in the gratitude journal every morning, and it's just 3 simple things. It can be birds, it can be anything.
Mhm.
um is training my brain to look for the good and be grateful for it and be with it and be present with it. And I started this, it was a New Year's resolution from last year, from 2017, and I've done it every single day since,
What?
except last September. I was like, oh, I'm good. That
Mhm.
worked. I don't need to do that anymore. October, I had more anxiety attacks. I was like, whoa, I need to do this again. So I took 1 month off, and I actually like really saw a difference in like me
Mhm.
not feeling as grounded. So now I'm never going to stop again. So I've been doing it every day this year, that 5 minute yoga or 10-minute yoga, 5 minute meditation, right in the gratitude journal. And recently I've been encouraged to start a dream journal, write down the dreams, if you can remember them, as soon as you wake up.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that,
Mhm.
I don't know if that's like some sort of subconscious release, and writing it, there's more release. So for me, the anxiety attacks are me needing to release something. It's
Mhm.
like all the physical stuff is like emptying out. So I've been trying to find ways of, what does that release look like? Is it happening while I sleep? So last night I had a lovely dream that I was on a hoverboard like 20 feet above the earth, which is kind of cool. But I'm like,
That sounds
what is that
fantastic.
telling me? Like, I
Right.
don't know. And I'm not analyzing them. I'm just writing them down. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's giving me space for something else that needs to get created. Who knows?
Definitely. Definitely. No, a dream journal can be super helpful. And those morning structures really are so important. And it's really cool that they helped you so much, because when they do go away, you absolutely notice that difference in feeling grounded. I actually keep a dream journal as well,
Oh,
which
cool.
is really fun. And because my dreams tend to be really weird and
Aren't
kind
they
of
all
like,
though? Aren't
yeah,
everybody?
true. I don't, I guess when I say weird, I mean like kind of dark. But it's kind of been working for me lately because me and a good buddy of mine are starting a podcast. It's kind of just like short original stories that he's doing most of the writing. I'm doing the production, recording, and all that stuff. Because I really like being part of a collaborative creative team. And we've been trying to find a way to collaborate for years now. And we're just like, this is perfect. Let's do this. And so they're kind of we're doing like a sort of Twilight Zone kind of short, dark, tragic stories. And all of my dreams tend to be in that kind of weird place anyway, for whatever reason. So we have this huge doc on our like shared podcast folder, and I just have been typing up these descriptions of my dreams. And he's been like, dude, why are these so wild? Where are these coming from? I don't know, man. I'm just dreaming. Like last night I was at a haunted house, and there was some kind of ghost that was like haunting me, and I had to stand up to it. And finally, by the end of the dream, this other ghost came in that was just kind of hiding around doing its own thing the entire time, came up, and I didn't even flinch at it. And I was like, what are you going to do? Like, I'm here. I'm alive. You're not alive.
Oh man, I would love for anyone to unpack that, because that's some good stuff there. So I love that we've been talking about this. We've been going longer than I normally do on this, but I think this is really important conversation. I think it's really important to just talk about it, like whatever that is for you. So thank you very much for being here and sharing this. I know it's like, it can be a vulnerable topic. I would like to sort of debunk that and just be like, yeah, I eat, I drink, I have anxiety attacks, I do this, I do that. I do, like, it's just part of, like you said, it's part of who you are. And I mean, I would like to think there's a way to squash it, but I think your acceptance might be the way to go. So is there anything else you would want to share with anyone that's a musician or entrepreneur that's struggling with this, or any last words or anything before we hang up?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Of course.
But I guess the only thing I could say is, if you are having so much trouble that you are just frozen in place, whether that's in your life, in your relationship, whatever it might mean to you, if you are frozen in place, go seek therapy. Go seek a therapist, a counselor, whether it's a cognitive behavioral therapist or it's a medical professional. It helps. It helps so much, because it's about wanting to get better, being motivated to get better. And if you have that motivation, you're going to be the therapist's best client or best patient in the world, because every therapist just wants to have a patient who feels motivated in getting forward. And as a freelancer and as a musician, that motivation to keep working and to keep moving forward is so important. And if you feel that you are stuck in that and you can't get yourself to start that journey to keep moving forward or keep going on that journey, go find a counselor, go find a therapist, because it helps. It really does help.
That's awesome. Avi, where can we find you online?
I am online at my website, aviblummusic.com. I'm also on Twitter, Avi Blum Music, as well as Instagram, same thing, Avi Blum Music. Got that branding stuff down. And that's pretty much where I hang out online these days. Great. So Instagram, Twitter, Avi Blum Music. I think I said Avi Bloom when I introduced you. It's totally fine. It's like Blum, Bloom. It kind of goes both ways. Great. Thank you so much for being here. This was really great to talk to you about all this, and have a wonderful rest of your day. You too. Thanks so much. Awesome.
Please don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and YouTube if you like this podcast. Musicians like you keep me inspired and motivated, and for doing that, I'm offering you a free 6-page guide to pitching. This guide will unlock the keys to priming your pitch, where you can get started getting a yes when you pitch anything to anyone. Grab it at inthekey.co/prime. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Key Conversations. The theme song on this podcast was provided by yours truly. If you're interested to find out more about my composing and songwriting projects, go to inthekey.co/Cheryl. If you're a musician looking to get some real results for your music career, then head to inthekey.co/results, where I've created a bunch of different kinds of resources just for you. Key Conversations is sponsored in part by Bandzoogle. They make it easy to build a beautiful website for your music. Their step-by-step system gets you online in minutes, and you can choose from hundreds of mobile-friendly themes and customize them with their point-and-click editor. All of the features you can imagine for a possible website are built in. So, because you're a Key Conversations podcast listener, you get a special month free trial plus 15% off if you do decide to sign up, just for you. Go to inthekey.co/makeasite to get the offer.
Pretty sure that you're the missing part.